three categories of freedom. There's mental, mobility, and financial. 3 years since our first podcast together. I think you're our first repeat guest, actually. You helped us to get to #1 in 9 countries on that launch. So we have a lot to thank you for. If all of your content, all of the YouTube videos, all of the Instagram reels, everything you've ever said got deleted, what advice would you want to drop in 60 seconds that could have the most impact on people?
Wow. I'm going to be brutally honest here.
If you don't design your life, someone will do it for you.
He's looking up to some influencer on Instagram who's showing off a Lamborghini, and now we're subordinating to that being success, right? Instead of thinking about what makes us happy.
Or being selfish is the most selfless thing you can do. How would you explain that to someone?
Money was created for a medium for fair exchange, right? The money's just going around in circulation, but you will attract wherever the value is magnetized towards.
What makes you happy?
What makes me happy? Able to get up, spend some time with my family and read and learn and share and talk.
In this episode, we dive into how Jason built true autonomy through trading, investing, and designing a life that actually aligns with his values. You'll learn why most people stay trapped chasing the wrong version of wealth, how to build a daily system that keeps you free, and why being selfish might be the most selfless thing you can do. We also talk about YouTube, mindset, trading, chaos, clarity, and what it really takes to live an always free life.
Before we dive into this episode, I want to take a second to speak about our sponsor, Pith and Stem, who we are thrilled to have on this journey with us. As someone who is always looking for ways to improve my healthy hustle, Pith and Stem's drop-top desk stood out to me as the best full work-from-home solution on the market. The world of work from home is changing, and a laptop or screen perched on your lap or dining room table isn't enough anymore. It's imperative that we have a solution at home that matches our productivity station that we can have in our office. But of course, homes weren't made to be worked in, and not all of us want a dedicated study. That's why I'm so happy that Pith and Stem created this perfect solution. They designed this desk with both the needs of the professional and their home in mind. It's perfect because it allows me to have a full productivity station that suits my needs and helps me get the most out of every minute that I spend at it, not only so I work comfortably, but that I actually enjoy it. And the best thing about Drop Top, I can close and lock it at the end of the day to keep work and home separate. And it looks awesome on the wall. You can get your Drop Top desk anywhere in the world from pithandstem.com or just Google Drop Top and you'll find it pretty quickly.
Thank you so much for listening and watching these episodes. It feels like you're really part of the journey with us. And can I ask you one favor to help us grow even further? You may have noticed that we've been getting some amazing guests on. We've got more listeners than ever. But you can help us continue to give value to you by clicking that subscribe or follow button below. It helps us to show everyone else how well we're doing and therefore give you more value by getting bigger guests and take the podcast on the road. It'll take you 2 seconds and it's completely free and it helps us more than you know. Thank you.
Welcome back. So we're 3 years in. 3 years since our first podcast together. I think you're our first repeat guest, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're the first. I think you were number 3, and you helped us to get to #1 in 9 countries on that launch. So we have a lot to thank you for.
Wow, what an opening, mate! Thanks. I'm really glad to be here. I love you, and I love your podcast, and I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Well, we've got so much to get through today. I know you're a busy guy. You just jumped into Dubai for a weekend. So my first question to you is really around a statement that you've said before, that most people want to get rich, right? But what they actually want is freedom, and they'll get neither. So what is that trap? Why do you make that statement?
I think most people fall into the trap that thinking if they become financially well off, that somehow they'll be miraculously living the life that they want to live. And evidently that's not the case. I've met people who have lots of money and they are very resentful, very trapped. They don't know who they are. You know, there's many different cases where people have got lots of money, they're not happy. On the contrary, you know, people say money doesn't buy happiness. Money's just one piece of the puzzle, right? So freedom to me is doing what you truly want to do, being able to do that anywhere you like, ideally, and with whoever you want, and having tasks to do that are inspiring to you and not, you know, meaningless tasks that you feel a little bit resentful for doing. And then having enough financial backing to slow down should you wish, you know. But the idea is if you're doing what you want to do all the time and you're having the experiences that you want in life, then you don't want to stop. That's the goal. The goal to me is to have no goals. Like the goal for me is just to live a great life every day. That's it, right? So the reason people never end up with either is because, one, they don't know who they are in the first place. So they're doing something. They've got either some sort of memory baggage that's holding them back, or they've got warped perceptions on what they should or shouldn't do, usually based on parents, teachers, that kind of thing. They get pushed into doing something that because they've subordinated to someone else's idea of what a great life is, a vocation is. They're looking up to people online and putting people on pedestals and looking at, and their want list is made up of things that other people have got that they don't truly want, right? So now they're chasing goals that aren't truly meaningful to them, So then they go and try and make that, they try and set goals financially to go and get those things. So they're already on a back foot. They're now a slave to their life, right? So then they go into the workforce, and the next thing is the money, right? So the money, they need to earn the money, but they're now exchanging time for money. They're not great at delegating or building automations or systems in their business. If you're an entrepreneur watching this, they feel like if I start my own business, I'll have more freedom. That's not always the case. In fact, it's mostly not the case. Because they're not doing what they want to do, they're doing what they think they should be doing. They're now a slave to that. And now they're trying to make that work, right? And then, because the business is such a shit show, they can't do that from anywhere. They're now in a hamster wheel. So they've literally gone from a 7-year-old kid having all the freedom in the world to someone who thought they'd have much more freedom when they're an adult, but now they've got no freedom. And when they were a kid, they were like, when I'm an adult, no one's going to tell me what to do. I'll have all the freedom in the world. Now they're like in a prison. And no matter how much money you earn, so what happens is, even if they do really well financially, they feel like, oh, we've done well this month, I need a treat because I need to escape. I need to feel good. I need to get away from this for a minute. So they blow the money, and then they go and, to feel good for 5 minutes. And it's this whole cycle that continues.
Do you know what's so funny? There's so many points in there that resonate with me. And I've followed you for a long time. And I've said before that the first money I ever put into mentorship was into one of your programs, right. Tears of Freedom program, because I was advised to, onto your point there, to learn wealth or how to manage money first before you start a business, because otherwise you just lose it all. And your sort of tagline, financial empowerment and wealth creation, that always sticks with me, especially when you're talking there. Like we were all looking for freedom when we probably came across yourself, or when you wanted to leave a job or whatever it was. That's my journey. But you get stuck then in business, and you are on that hamster wheel, and you turn your sight to revenue and riches, but you were always looking for freedom in the first place. You always wanted to be always free, right?
Right.
So that's the trap, I guess.
That is the trap. But the fact that you're trying to escape a job, it means you don't like the job. So what I see a lot of is people trying to reverse engineer their lives, particularly when they get to like 35 years old, 38 years old, something like around that time, where they're like, this life really isn't going to get me where I want to be. And it's because my parents told me to be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant, usually. And now they're like, I wish I'd always done that. Well, why didn't you do that in the first place? And the reason you didn't do it, the bare bones answer to that question is because you took advice from someone who you just bought into, assuming that was aligned with who you are as a person, but it isn't. And questioning that, I'll give you an example. When I learnt to drive, and this is a kind of, it's a small example, but when I learnt to drive, I asked my stepdad, like, what should I use, a automatic or a manual car? And he was like, well, just learning a manual, because then you can drive both, right? So I just flippantly accepted that was what I should do, right? I hate driving, right? So I want to drive as least as possible. I haven't even got a car anymore, right? So I took longer to learn the lessons because manual's harder. I spent more on lessons because it took me longer. I failed the test the first time because of the thing, and I passed eventually. I have driven automatic cars since the day I passed my test, and now all cars are going automatic, right? Yeah. So that advice from him, had I questioned that and gone, well, I get what he's saying, but actually I don't really like driving, and I want the easiest way to drive. I don't really want that. if I had just thought about it for a second, I wouldn't have that resentment. I wouldn't have spent more money, took more time, and had to. So it's just a small example, but people do that in everything in their life. They just look at someone spouting their ideas, and I think their inability to synthesize paradoxes from people and then form their own version that is aligned with them, that's the key to starting your path to freedom.
Yeah. I always admire people that are able to, at a younger age, have that mindset as well, because I feel like in my own journey, my parents are both in the police, and they just thought if I could be the first one to go to uni, that would be a success. And I was like, okay, I'll buy into that. Let's do that. Yeah. Go to uni. And then they're like, imagine if you did a master's. Okay. Imagine if you got a house, and you just get onto the conveyor belt where you're not even thinking.
No.
And people that see that differently at like 15, 16, 17, whatever age, when they're young and they change their path, maybe their family's trajectory. I just think it's incredible. And I almost wish that I could have done that earlier. But
it's difficult to do, though. I mean, we are impressionable at that age. We are learning, and why wouldn't you believe that's the right step to
100%.
do? The good news is the earlier you can figure this stuff out, the better, obviously. But when you go into your work, a lot of parents push their kids into work with a focus on you need to start earning money. And the money becomes the initial driver. That's the problem. So then it's like, I'll accept anything going around that will pay me because that is success. I'm now being paid for a job. Real success is going into a job you love. That's if you can start. This is what I do with my kids.
Does it say in the book, live a life you love?
Yeah, well, along those lines, how to become financially free to live an inspired life.
Inspired life.
Yeah. And even with my kids, I've tried to guide them in areas that they enjoy, and then go, right, now knuckle down more on that, and push a little bit more on that, because they actually enjoy it. But if it was something like pushing your kid out on a dance pageant because you're living your childhood dreams through your kids, that's what a lot of parents try to do, and you can't recognize that as a kid. You're like, oh, I don't know. So success to me is starting, not even earning money, it's just doing something you enjoy.
Yeah. Also, something that you do really well, I think, is you live a very intentional life. And so your point there to your kids, you're helping them do things that they enjoy, but inherently you also enjoy it. So I'm thinking in my mind at the minute about YouTube, right? You love creating YouTube videos. Your kids love editing and being part of that. So you're bringing them together, and also almost your job as a dad is to be like, do what you love, but also I love it at the same time. And there's so many back skills in there that your values are so aligned. Whereas if they loved YouTube editing and you didn't, that would be misaligned again, and that would be really difficult.
Yeah, so I pulled both of my kids out of school when they were 14. And my youngest son, he came out of school, he started learning, he's a creative, he liked animation, he started learning Premiere Pro.
Wow.
And that was not intended to work with me or at all, right? So he starts learning Premiere Pro. He starts building a YouTube channel, teaching people how to do edits on Premiere Pro. He masters Premiere Pro within a year and a half. So by this time, he's 15 and a half. And by this time, his mates at school have still got like another half a year until they even do their exams. He's now taking on clients to do shorts and reels, what to pay for his upgrade of his computers, and he'll do a new graphics card, and he's learning Premiere Pro even more, and then we got to the point where he was earning money, like he was getting thousands every month charging for other people's reels and shorts. And then we went to Florida, and I said, listen, why don't we just ditch all those and you just do mine, and we'll build out our YouTube channel. So now it just worked out that we're working together, but he's doing something he really enjoys. And I'm sure, it won't be forever, but he's in a creative space, which is what he naturally was guided towards. He's in videography, he's in animation. Maybe one day down the line it will evolve into animation or AI animation or wherever it's going to go, but at least he's in that field. And the money's just a byproduct.
100%. He's been given the opportunity, hasn't he?
Yeah.
You are launching this book, right? Which I have been really lucky to read ahead of this podcast. And something that I think is a really interesting part of this, which is relevant to what we're speaking about now, is that the foreword is by Dr. John DeMartini. And it's an incredible foreword. There's a few forewords actually by incredible people, but this is the one that stands out. And there's a part in there, a quote that I think is super relevant, which he says, people chase money misaligned with their values, which is simple, but I read it like 3 or 4 times because to the point about being trapped and having an illusion of what you actually want when you were seeking freedom, that part for me is so powerful. People chase money misaligned with their own values. How do you interpret that?
It's making it very difficult for yourself to. So let's just say that you wanted to lose weight, and your daily habits, or you didn't like walking, you didn't like running, you didn't like lifting weights, you didn't like certain foods, But to lose weight, you've gone out and you've said, right, I need to do all of the things that I hate. Right? So I'm going to run, I'm going to eat the foods I hate. The chances of succeeding in that are very slim. What's more likely to happen is you'll have a short burst of results and then you'll go back to square one, and you'll be on this cycle of yo-yo weight gain and weight loss. Instead of making it easier for yourself, instead of going, okay, well, do you know what? I'm just going to walk to the shop instead of take the car, and I'm going to not have sugar in my tea, and make it more aligned to your life and you as a person. Same with investing. If you've got a low risk tolerance, the last thing you want to do is just place high risk and high volatile trades and things like that, right? So because your personality can't deal with it. So the same with earning money. If your business, any vocation, the way that you generate your income should be an extension of who you are as a person. So, for instance, whatever you talk about, whatever you help people with or serve people with should be something that you naturally are inspired to talk about and serve people with. Because if you're not, it's going to be banging a head against the wall. There's going to be a friction, and whenever there's a friction, you are deteriorating your chances of sustainability in that path. So if you're trying to do something you hate, you're going to, again, when you do get money, you're going to blow it, because it will be a treat for you to get away and escape that week, on the Friday. And you see people do this every Friday. Payday, let's go and get pissed because I just need to forget about my life.
Live for the weekend, right?
Live for the weekend.
Which is interesting because even I think a lot of entrepreneurs that I know still do live for the weekend. They still see it as like Monday to Friday, work really hard, probably harder in a lot of circumstances than people in jobs, or longer hours at least, and they still have that little blowout at the weekend where they're like, oh, thank God, which I always think is completely different to how I view business, and I know you view business.
Yeah, I think, aside from, because there'll be people watching this who are like B2B and they serve businesses in the week, and that's fine, right? Obviously, there is a period of time where you can only work because a lot of physical bricks and mortar businesses are still Monday to Friday. But I think if you have to escape, you need to ask some questions about what it is that you're trying to escape, and it's the same with alcohol, drugs, travel. People literally, I've got to get away, got to get on holiday. If you've got those conversations going on in your head, then pinpointing what you're trying to escape is probably a useful exercise, because whatever that is can be resolved. It will either be something just you're not inspired, a task that you're not inspired to do, which you can then prioritize delegating, or it can be something deeper that actually, I know I'm going down this path, but I don't actually want to be in this industry at all. I don't really want to be doing this at all. Then consider scaling back and looking around you at what you're trying to keep up with, because a lot of the time people think, oh, I can't stop now. I've got this expense, that expense. I need to look like the part. Well, you don't. No one's really gives a shit what you look like.
Exactly. Literally no one cares today. No one cares. And to that point, I mentioned already that you're really intentional with what you do. And one of the things that you've said before that I really like is like, no one cares. Like just crack on and find that freedom. Find what that freedom is and then work towards it. And in fact, you've said there's 3 categories of freedom. There's mental, mobility, and financial. And I'm interested in what is the consequence of achieving them in the wrong order? Right.
So I know mental freedom is the foundation, because if you don't know who you are, you are now, let's just say that, here's you and you've ended up here and you thought you would end up here, right? Well, the reason you're here is because you've taken a path not aligned to who you are, right? You've made every single decision you've made in your life, you have either taken poor advice or advice that's not aligned to who you are or your goal, and you've ended up here, right? So to get back here, the reason you're here is because you haven't thought for yourself. You haven't aligned those decisions with who you are as a person. So mental freedom, knowing who you are, right? That's easier said than done because a lot of people don't know who they are. They're trying to be someone else, and that's the truth of it, right? So knowing who you are and making sure that you're congruent with who you are as a person, that's the first thing. If you don't have mental freedom, you'll be pushed around and told how to spend the money. It doesn't matter how much money you get. I know people born into rich families, they can go anywhere, do anything, pay for anything, and they're the most depressed people on earth because they've got no mental freedom. They don't know who they are. They've got no purpose whatsoever. I've seen this so many times now. I feel like I'm qualified to say that, right? I've been on, yachts with people who you can just see it. You can just see it. They're dead behind the eyes. So mental freedom's absolute foundation. And then once you know who you are, you can then do what you want wherever you want. That's the mobility freedom. That's basically making sure that however you earn money, your vocation of earning money to pay for the experiences that you truly need and want because you know who you are, comes from a place of not doing any uninspiring stuff, not doing any resentful tasks, being able to not be tied to any geographical location in particular. Ideally, the more mobile we are, the more free we feel. And then having systems and automations and being a master of delegation so that your only focus is to do the few things that you love doing every day, right? So whatever it is that you are, whoever it is you are as a person, whatever it is you want to do, you're now pushing that out into the world. Your business is an extension of you, truly you, and you're generating enough income to cover the experiences that you want as a human being. And then financial freedom. If you don't have mobility freedom, by the way, you'll feel very tied down. You'll feel very uninspired, unfulfilled because you won't feel free. Like, remember when COVID hit? Yeah. Everyone's locked inside their houses, but everyone felt freer. They felt freer because they felt this sense of, like, I don't know, like a breather. It was like, I can do what I want in order today. I'll prioritize my tasks how I want. And yeah, I'm taking less money, but I'd rather have less money and because I feel free. So the mobility piece, now everyone's got this confirmation in their head that they can work from anywhere in the world all of a sudden. You feel freer. So the more mobile you are, the freer you feel. And then the financial element is literally how much time you can buy into the future based on how much liquidity you've got, how much leveraged income you're generating, and you get that from assets. So you take a portion of your income, you invest it into assets that you buy or create that generate a leveraged income, and the amount of time that you can buy into the future is relevant because should you wish to stop, or should you have an accident, or should you lose your ability to do your vocation, you've got that mental freedom still underpinned by the financial element that says, don't worry, if the shit hits the fan, we've got 6 months, we've got 9 months, we've got 12 months. You don't have to panic. Yeah. And if you have all of those together, that's what Always Free is about. That's what this feeling of calmness, poised.
Your buffer strategy that you just mentioned then, I think that is what lets us stay in abundance mindset most of the time, because the business is there, but having the buffer and using that strategy and seeing everything, scheduled out and forecasted out was a game changer, especially when we moved to Dubai. You could see that you've got this much runtime, and you can add to that runtime, and effectively if that runtime becomes 100 years at your current lifestyle, then you can do what you want. Your family can do what you want. You've got money forever, right? It's such a powerful thing.
Yeah, and it unlocks, just having it there unlocks a different part of your brain to become more creative, to make more money, to be more caring, calm, better parent, better spouse, better partner. You speak to your colleagues better, you get more opportunities. Yeah. It's crazy. And I always share an example of like the when people say, what should I invest in? And I say, how much money have you got? And they say nothing. And I say, well, you want to start investing, just save. And they're like, or they'll come and say, well, I've got 5 grand in the bank or 10 grand in the bank. And what should I invest it in? And I say, well, what's your living costs? And they say 4 grand a month, 5 grand a month. And I'm like, just leave it in the bank then. And they're like, what do you mean? And I say that is an investment. Saving is an investment because you get an immediate return on that investment. And I say, imagine I'm a builder and I've done some work on your house, right? And you ring me up and you say, I'm going to pay your final invoice, but I've just got a few snags that I want you to take care of, and I haven't got any money. I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to be like, just pay me my money. I'll come round and I'll just pay me. You're not going to get paid. You'll probably piss them off. You won't get recommended, right? Flip the switch. Different situation. I've got 6 to 12 months living costs in the bank, right? You ring me up. No worries at all. I'm going to come round. I want to make sure we've got a long-lasting relationship here. I'm going to make sure you're very happy. You come round, you put care into it. You go, you have a drink with them or whatever. It's all nice. They're going to give you what they owe you. They're going to pay you a tip. They're going to recommend you to all their friends. You're going to be inundated with work. You're going to be able to charge more because you're oversubscribed. So it's an immediate. And that's just from a brain. That's from your brain. That's.
It's not even real.
It's not even real.
Yeah.
It's not real. Yeah. So, and then the care that you put into things. You can think clearer. You can answer questions from a place of certainty rather than reactivity. And you're just a different person when you know you've got a buffer.
Absolutely. I've shared that ideology with lots of my friends, and they've done it over time, and you can see them changing and evolving. To your point there about what happened in COVID, where we all had less money, less freedom, but you felt more free because you had more control potentially over your life. I know we're talking about wealth creation here, but in the same vein, a lot of the people who live in countries where they don't have very much, they feel a lot happier than those in the Western world who have money. So when we're looking at building freedom and living an inspired life towards what we want to do, how do you look at what COVID did for us, which is let us feel free and happy? Those countries where they haven't got anything and still feel happy, and you've got people who have got money, but they're not happy. How do you balance all of that out towards your own goals and intentions?
Yeah, so going back to the COVID thing, they experienced what it was like to be always free to a degree. So it's the three, the three components really, or the three objectives are to increase your leveraged income. Well, they were getting furlough checks and bounce back checks or whatever they were, and they were basically at home, so they had mobility freedom, right? And although it wasn't mobile, it was mobile. They were at home, they're working from home. That you feel freer doing that. So they have leveraged income coming in. They reduced their lifestyle expenses, right, which is the other objective, or controlled their lifestyle expenses, because they're not keeping up with the Joneses. There's no one to show off to. You can't leave your house. You don't need the other car. You don't need the gym membership. You don't need the flipping gardeners or whatever, right? You don't need all that stuff. You don't need the private school. You don't need any of that stuff. So there's no one to show off to. You reduce your lifestyle expenses, and then the mental freedom, they sat and thought clearly about what it is they truly want. They have more clarity. They have more time to get in touch with themselves and know what makes them happy. People really became clear, I think, during that time of what they were grateful for, what was truly important to them. And they kind of got this alignment of what true freedom feels like for a short period of time. So when people can't have it, when people don't have that, then they're out there in the world either being pushed around mentally by someone else and doing things that are not inspiring to them vocationally, or they've got not enough money, so they feel like they can't stop or have a breather.
Yeah.
So you sort of need all three.
So it's interesting actually. So rather than saying, well, those people who have less are happier, what you're saying is it's relative, and they've just in the Western world during COVID, we experienced freedom by just living with less and having those three elements ticked off.
People in the third world are trying to survive, so they're trying to be their success is gauged by the happiness that they've got through living, and when you're happy with that, right? It's
Maslow.
It is. Yeah. It's very difficult, but it's very difficult to then become a slave to someone else, because everyone's it's a level playing field, right? The problem with now, the level playing field that we've got is looking up to some influencer on Instagram who's showing off a Lamborghini, and now we're subordinating to that being success, right? Instead of thinking about what makes us happy. And the problem with that is, soon as you go for that goal, you are now a slave to that person's life, that person's goals, that person's everything, and it's not real.
It's such a good thing to think about, isn't it? In fact, I'll put it to you. What makes you happy?
What makes me happy? Being able to wake up every day and have the experiences that I want with my family. You know, I've sold all my cars. Honestly, I'm a very simple guy. I like music. I like tech. You know, I'm a bit of a geek. I love teaching and sharing what I've learned. And I love security. And so as long as I am able to get up and spend some time with my family and read and learn and share and talk, and then I'm happy. And I play my guitars and make me some music and stuff like that. And everything in my business, everything that I've built now allows me to just get up and do that every day, right? Yeah. And
it's perfect. It is perfect. We'll link the first episode we did together below this episode, because you went into so much depth about the chaos that you grew up in and what the impact that it had on you, because I think it's really powerful and people will understand so much about you and what we're talking about here from that. I want to talk about trading, because you've got one of the most successful online trading companies in the world, and you know, it's incredible what you've built. But what did trading teach you about freedom?
Trading taught me the most about myself than I've ever learned. Trading's the best self-development program you can ever do. Okay. Even if I recommend most people don't trade.
Sure.
Right? So I'll just throw that out there. But I recommend everyone does a training program.
Okay.
Purely because you learn more about yourself learning to trade than you do from anything else I've ever paid for.
In what way?
And the reason being is, trading is a business, but unlike most businesses, it's you against you. There's no one else to blame, right? You are looking in a mirror the whole time, and no one gives a shit if you make money or not. It's just you. So you can either make money, and you know this in your head. I can either be a successful trader or not. And if you're not, all you've got is blame. You blame other things, but you can't blame anyone. It's just you, right? So it's the most rawest, you have to deal with yourself here, and you learn about your personality. You learn about, you just learn about your risk tolerance. You learn how all of your emotions. And what I learned about trading making me free is, it's not passive. So a lot of people chase it for passive income, right? Actually, it's not passive. Passive is a measurement of time. It's very mobile as long as you've got a broadband connection. Okay, so you can go anywhere in the world, but it wasn't passive initially because I had to spend time on a laptop.
Pause. Sorry, it's me, Freddie, interrupting myself. I just want to point out how well this guest is doing at building trust with you, the audience. They're adding value, they're giving inspiration, and they're hopefully educating you on a few different areas. You see, we're in a trust recession, and becoming a podcast guest is literally the best way to continue to build trust while so many are struggling. We've built a community of incredible entrepreneurs, all becoming the top most in-demand podcast guests in the world. And if you click some of our links below, not only have we got templates to help you become a top guest, we've also got a community that you can join to get yourself to where you want to be. Now back to the episode.
Laptop, so you can't go to a beach and sit on a laptop on a beach. It's ridiculous. It overheats. Like my phone blew up last time I was here.
No way.
But you can't do that. But what it did teach me about freedom is there's no time for money correlation in trading, because the longer you spend at your charts doesn't mean you're going to make more money. You can actually earn the same amount of money 10 minutes as you can day trading for 8 hours a day. There's no time for money correlation. It's all about reward to risk ratio, strike rate, and the number of opportunities you get. And you can build a system to suit your lifestyle, which is very empowering and phenomenal, really. It's the most phenomenal way to accelerate wealth, but most people shouldn't be doing it, you know. The only people that should do trading is people who are process-oriented, logical mind, IT, military, engineers. People are just binary. If I do this, the outcome comes over a period of time. That's
what I was going to ask. Are some people better suited to it? So someone who's like super creative and likes there to be lots of malleable things, maybe they're not
blowing the screen. Go up.
Putting social media posts up about it. Yeah, it doesn't work.
No. If you're away with the fairies, trading is an objective sport. It is not something where you go, oh, it might do this tomorrow.
But you've got to know a lot about the markets or the politics around it. Or not
You
so
definitely
much?
don't. No. I'm
misconception.
I'm purely a technical based trader. So I look at all the chart in trading is a historical data and a representation of human behavior, market participants, right? So if you imagine looking at that over 10 years, you'll see cycles of economic cycles, you'll see political cycles, you'll see disaster cycles, tsunamis, you'll see earthquakes, you'll see all of these patterns that happen frequently because humans behave the same way. So all of those charts just represent decisions. And the thing with humans, our mental evolution hasn't really changed for about 3,000 years, so it's pretty predictable. And if you can just identify predictable patterns and then build objective, I call them board game rules around them, like Monopoly at Christmas, right? Everyone makes up their own rules until you actually need to finish the game, and it's like, oh, go and get the thing out. We need to end this. Like it says here that you owe me money, So you build board game objective rules around those patterns, and you just trade them, and that's it. It is literally that, and you know that if you trade that over a period of time, over time you'll come out with a profit, and it's so simple. It's as simple as that.
So I think it's really interesting that you look at business, or you're able to, with your experience, create this simplicity through business, and you're able to link it to wealth, which is probably why you've been able to do so well on YouTube as well, right? Because you took trading and all the training that you've done, then you've simplified it and gone, there's a platform, there's an opportunity, let me do the same thing there. I'm sure you don't mind me sharing that you did, 8 figures last year on YouTube alone. How is that even possible?
You know what? I didn't. So the way that I went about YouTube is with this whole concept of not needing money. Right. So I don't need money, but I believe that money is a byproduct of serving people. Right. There's a guy called Stuart Wilde in the 80s, and he ran a seminar called Master of Money, and he comes out on stage, and this was back in the 80s, and he says, I'm going to be talking about concepts of esoteric wealth, how to make money. And his opening line is, I'm not going to be talking about how to hustle and grind and compete and scratch and claw and all this kind of stuff, but instead feel it all coming to you naturally as a sense of, as an outpouring of the love and the creativity that you put out in the world. And when you do that, there'll be people that want to find you, and they'll crawl in under the doors and lower themselves in through the ceiling and jump over the fence, and they'll get to you. And when they get to you, you just have to have an organized way to bill them. Right, and you get the fair exchange, and that really resonated with me. And when I was, in my late 20s, early 30s, I was in a position where I didn't need money, so I was lacking a bit of fulfillment because I was at home just trading, and really, I wasn't helping anyone. So I thought, well, I want to help people. Let's do this. So everything I started putting out onto YouTube was from a place of no expectation of anything in return. So everything went into it, right? I wanted to share everything. The video you're talking about, when I sat down and created that video, the energy that went into that video was me sitting down and saying, how can I create a video where no one will have any questions and no one will need to ever talk to me again, because they'll have everything from this video that they could possibly need. So I sat down for a week and mapped out everything. Like I did. Literally, I was thinking, have I missed any questions? Like, how can I not get any questions or comments? How can I not get any? Like, that was the energy that went into that. And I recorded it, I put it out there, and that video enabled us to, like, people just came from everywhere. They're like, right, we want more, we want more, we want more. And it's like they've spent 2.5 hours watching everything they need. They want even more. And it was that magic of what Stuart Wilde was saying. It was bang on. And I believe that the energy that was in that video just was portrayed that I don't need you. This is for you. There's no expectation. I'm giving this to you, and there's no small print. I'm not going to dupe you or get you, or it's all yours. And I think when you produce content like that, it really genuinely comes across that way.
100%.
And people want more.
Like with or without you energy, isn't it?
Yeah, with or without your energy, but they want more because they've now spent 2.5 hours with you. They believe that you're so, you've got so much integrity that they just want you to just handhold them to the next thing, and then you build systems and ways to be able to take that money.
Yeah, it's so good. And you've helped us with our YouTube as well. You've done some consulting on the channel, and we've done one of your programs, and we're in the early stages, but the growth we've seen has been insane. But what's even better than that is that we've made sales through it on the personal channel. Amazing. And on the podcast channel, which is really interesting because you don't teach virality, you teach intentional visibility. Yeah. So, for example, firstly, why do you think that's so important? Why is that intentional visibility so much more important than virality?
Because virality usually comes from a place of tripwire, clickbait. Virality is very polarizing, whereas intentional display of your expertise is coming from a place of love and care and generosity. And when people catch on to that, it's like, well, I could either try this myself, but I've just spent this time, I trust this person, they've done what I want to do. I'll naturally gravitate, the market will gravitate towards that value regardless, because you are the person that they've spent most time with. So to answer that question, the most important thing on social media, because bear in mind, I think the advantage I have on YouTube is I'm an analyst, I'm a trader. So when I spent 8 years messing around with YouTube, I just looked at the analytics after 8 years and said, this is obvious. Yeah. I know what to do now. Let's do this. And it went. And when I look back at it, I think it's so obvious. But what I learned, the biggest lesson, is content is just getting people to spend a long time with you. That's it.
Do you know,
if you want to make sales.
The best example of this, right, is almost like our entire relationship when I first heard you on the first podcast. Because I listened to you first, then we did your course, then I met you and became your friend. But there's lots of people that sell YouTube courses and do YouTube programming, YouTube consulting. But there was never another option. Because over time, I spent enough time with you that it was always going to be you. As soon as you said, I'm doing a YouTube thing, regardless of any marketing, I was like, well, obviously, I trust this guy.
Imagine this. Imagine typing into YouTube, how to DJ, and you find someone and you spend 2 hours watching a DJ video. You're not going to go, oh, that was good. Let's go and type that question in again. You're just not going to do it. You're going to go down the rabbit hole of that guy. As long as the integrity's there, as long as the congruency's there, and your belief and your perceived value is high enough to go, this guy is good enough. This is what I want, right? That's what you have to be. You have to be good enough to meet their expectations. And as long as they've got that belief about you, they're only going to move forward with you. They're not going to go anywhere else.
That's a good point, actually. The congruency part as well is really important, because if you were like a humongous extrovert show off, I would never have had congruence with you. So you have to have that personality that I'm like, okay, I can spend time with this guy over time. Right. Just let us know, how much are you investing into YouTube in the future? Like, what are you seeing this as opportunity, and how are you exploiting that? What are you doing to make it an opportunity for yourself?
Right, I'm going to be brutally honest here. You got entrepreneurs listening to this, right? I've made a hell of a lot of money in my life. I've tried everything. I've done index funds, real estate investment trusts, ETFs, large cap stocks, medium cap stocks, angel startups, tech startups, property abroad, everything. I've tried everything. Trading, crypto, online poker, options trading, forex trading. I've done a lot. And last year was the first year that YouTube and the generation of income from that exceeded anything I've ever done.
Okay, wow.
So YouTube is the investment. And for anyone watching this, to see someone who's an investor, and basically my whole life has been to make money through good returns, right? To watch me invest into my own YouTube studio now should say to you, invest in YouTube, because that is the one. That's probably going to be the play now for the rest of my life. Maybe the there might be 1/4 of my life left, but for the next 10 years, that's what I'm in.
And you can literally see it, right? Because it's through everything you're doing. But also, like, probably 5 years ago, I started to say to Antonia, I don't really like Netflix anymore. I don't watch TV. I don't think our generation watches TV, really. Netflix is okay, but YouTube, you literally just tell the creator, can you make this? And they'll make it. It's like that instant and malleable way of driving, right? So, for example, if I went onto your channel and I was really into trading and I was like, Jason, please I don't understand how to use TradingView or something. You can literally next week, if enough people ask you, make that exact video for the exact amount of time you know I'm going to watch it for, with the exact bumps and stuff that I want.
Exactly. And there's going to be millions of people like you.
Exactly.
And they're all going to watch it. And YouTube gets the confidence in you as a creator to promote it to all those people. And I just want to say at this point as well, it's not just about the money as well. So I say like it's the biggest return on investment monetary wise, but I still wouldn't do it if it took loads of time. Yeah. Because time's first for me. I don't need any more money. Honestly, if I lived every day like this for the rest of my life, I'd be a very happy person. I don't need any more money, right? But the best return on my investments was YouTube. And the way that I measure that is from the amount of time that it takes away from what I want to do, which I love doing it anyway. So I'm literally doing it anyway. But you can hold a camera, record a video, reach thousands of people, as long as you've built the good systems and assets in your business in a way that allows you to not be on a hamster wheel, which we've done, so that money comes in and it's like, this is crazy. It cost me £200 to make this video and it's made thousands and thousands. There's nothing like it. There's really nothing like it.
And the thing is that people love it and they love to watch the journey, right? I know people love to get up in the morning and watch you trade or live on Instagram and sit there with your same cup of coffee in your studio. And I think like you're a very good advocate for people have to buy into you as a person, right? And then over time, they will definitely trust you. But again, going back to what we said at the start about freedom and wealth creation, people are in such a rush and they don't understand themselves fully. That they just can't get there. There's a really nice line from the book which says, if you don't design your life, someone will do it for you. Yeah. Which I think, again, like makes so much sense in this modern world.
And like what you just said there, I've been myself on YouTube. It's congruency. And that takes a much longer time to build, but you build a great community. There's people getting tattoos of my logo on them.
No way.
It's crazy, right? Because we've got such a great community now. But if I'd have gone out, I could have made the channel much bigger quicker by just selling the dream, right? But one, that's not me. So that I would be waking up fighting against doing that every day. So it'd be a resistance. It'd be much harder to do. I'd always feel like I'm one step behind because I'm trying to do something that isn't true to me. Two, playing the long game comes from a place of not needing money. So having a money game, having a financial system in order, right? So you can't do that unless you are not needing money, right? So that's why I preach what I preach. You have the buffers in place. Just get your finances sorted out. So you're coming from a place of you're a master of your money. You're in control of this thing, right? And you put out a different energy online. You're not going, I need to dupe people into watch this video or clickbait, or I need to get them into something and sell them something. People smell desperation a mile off.
Yeah, and you can tell that you're like that as well, because I know that you fly yourself out to places to do talks and you're not even getting paid for the talks. You're flying out to help charities.
I'm never paid for talks. I'm never paid
exactly,
to go anywhere.
Because you genuinely want to help and you understand that know, like and trust and building that community of people that are actually going to like you is more valuable.
And I like that. I never want someone to say to someone, we had to pay for 10 grand for him to be here. Yeah. I just don't want that, because it goes against everything I'm talking about, right? Or that's why I let people come around my house. I don't think you came to the entrepreneur party, but we had like 100 KPI like around my house in the pool. I let people come and see the whites of my eyes and see my family and how I actually live, and because I've got nothing to hide. And I always say, if you don't know who you are, and if you really want true authenticity, which kind of seems to be a bit of a buzzword at the moment, imagine you've got cameras on you 24/7 in your house, right? Would you be happy for that to go online? And if the answer is no, there's something you're trying to hide from the outside world, which means there's someone you're trying to be that you're not, or there's something you're not loving or owning about yourself that you don't want people to see. So deal with that until the answer to that question is yes, and then you're being authentic. Then you're being congruent. Yeah. Until that, you're not.
Yeah. And you live in a lovely part of the world, and you share where you live with people. What does a day look like for you? Like your normal days? I know you wouldn't change it for the world. So what does a normal day when you get back to the UK look like for you?
So I have an empty calendar.
I'm not surprised.
It's gym. I get up in the morning. I look at some trade setups, and then I go to that's about 10 minutes. Go to the gym, spend an hour in the gym, shower, have a chat with my son, and then we'll either do some YouTube stuff, or film some content, or we'll make pizzas and play some music, or whatever, and then we'll go for a walk in the forest with my wife. We'll take a trip somewhere. That's literally all I do, and I have lunch and very routine with my food and stuff like that. So that's about it. And then,
what do you think the life is that people default into when they haven't found what you've found, which is like, this is what I like. I found my routines and the things that I'm working towards and my bigger vision. What's that life they just default back into?
They default into chasing goals that are usually not, they're overwhelming because, one, they're not important to them. So people procrastinate a lot. And the reason they procrastinate is because the goal that they're chasing either isn't important to them truly. And if they're honest with themselves, they'll be like, I'm chasing that goal because I spoke to someone the other day, and he was like, right, next goal, 50 million revenue. That's my, why 50 million? And he was like, well, it's just, he couldn't really answer it. And what it boils down to is he's trying to prove an ex, or an old boss or something. It boiled down to something like that. And I was like, well, you're a slave to that then. Like, you're a slave to them. Like, what does 50 million mean to you? Like, well, you're just doing, so now you're going to spend time away from your family, hustle mode, potentially lose your wife, and your kid's going to get pissed off because you're chasing this 50 million for what? An ex?
Yeah, it's to prove one person right.
What are you doing? So yeah, people fall into this trap of chasing things that aren't congruent to them. And also, they might have a big goal, but another reason that they procrastinate is because they just haven't broken the goal down into small enough chunks and just attacked the bits that they are good at and inspired to do. Because if you do that and see it for what it is, you can easily get someone else or delegate the bits that you don't want to do towards that goal, which there's always going to be things like that. But ultimately, their life looks like this spiral of ups and downs where it's burnout and I've had a great week, and then it's like, I need a break. And I see this all the time. There's people on social media, sorry, I've been off of here for a bit, I'm gonna take a rest, and I see this like, well, what's going on? What are you escaping?
They're working for other people, even though they think they're working for themselves. One of the things you say, which I really like, is the most selfless, or being selfish is the most selfless thing you can do. How would you explain that to someone?
The best way to explain that is people, like I saw someone who's in the media right now spurt off something against millionaires being out for themselves, right? And poor people, they don't have anything, right? So we'll kind of use that example.
Who could it be?
I don't know, but if I could just put my feet up on this chair. No. But anyway, he's spouting this off. Human beings created money for a medium for fair exchange. Okay? So there's always going to be people that want to work harder and serve more than others. So there's going to be people who would naturally just want to serve and people who are lazy or don't want to serve. You don't have to be lazy, but you just don't want to serve. And there's going to be varying degrees of that, right? Which is why there's high achievers, overachievers. Money was created for a medium for fair exchange, right? But because there's people who want to do more than others, it means that the money's just going around in circulation, but you will attract wherever the value is magnetized towards, right? So when Mark Zuckerberg made Facebook, we didn't print more money for him to be richer. The money was there. It
was flowing.
Right? It was there, and we gave it to him because he served millions of people. Jeff Bezos is a billionaire because he served millions of people. Bill Gates, millions of people, right? So when you say well, they're out for themselves. They've served millions of people. They've had to endure the service first. The money came second. So they've had to do some hard work. And the way that the kind of example that I'd give is, let's just say that you ran 1,000 miles for charity, right? And you raised £200,000 for charity. Amazing. But as a result of that, a publisher, a magazine came to you and they said, we want to publish your story, we're going to get you a 20, 50 grand publishing deal for a book, right? So you got this book out that's got a publishing deal now, right? And you're getting 50 grand. But that came second. You still had to get up every morning and do all the training and go and do the running and run the 1,000 miles, which is what most people won't do, right? But you got the money as a result of doing that. So you get money from service. You get money from serving other people. There's only two ways to get money. There's one way to get money, and that's from another human to give it to you to put into your pocket. And there's two ways of doing that. You either serve them or beat them at a skill. That's it.
Value creation.
That's it. So service is the best and easiest way, and the way with least friction. And the reason people don't do that is because they don't want to. They're lazy, or they don't want to serve. And if you don't want to do that, and you're not inspired to do that, then you get with someone who does, and then you'll have a great life.
That's such a good point. Change your environment. When I used to get on the train to work in the southwest of the UK, it's a 15-minute train to Bath, and I would listen to your podcast. The bit that I could never get my mind around was that when I had a job, everyone around me had jobs, and no one was an entrepreneur. And then when you make that jump to become an entrepreneur, no one I know has jobs. And it's so weird, but you've got to get into the different rooms, right? If all of your content, all of the YouTube videos, all of the Instagram reels, everything you've ever said got deleted, what advice would you want to drop in 60 seconds that could have the most impact on people?
Wow. Basically everything we've just said. Be who you like. Make sure you understand who you are. So I would say the most important things are to know who you are. Make sure if there's any questioning that you've got from your past that you've labeled negatively in any way that's holding you back from making a decision in the future, make sure that you deal with that, and you deal with that by seeing the lessons and the positives that came from that situation, and then see it as a neutral event that took place, and now you don't have any fear of it in the future, and it's not going to hold you back in any way. Second of all, know who you are. So go through your camera roll on your phone and look at what you've chosen to take pictures of over the years, and there'll be a theme. There'll be a theme. It will be the mountains or animals or kids or business or tech or whatever it will. There'll be a theme there, and you'll see exactly what it is that you choose to take photos of, right? You can combine that with things like, what do you spend most of your disposable income on? If I rang your friend and asked them to tell me what they see you as, what would they say? Who are you the go-to guy for? What would you do on a Monday if you didn't need money? Those types of questions, and you'll see this pattern emerge that, this all links back to the mountains or hiking or sports or, whatever. It'll be something, and it'll be very obvious. That is the thing that you're meant to do. Right. And whether you teach that or serve people in some way in that field, one, it's not going to feel like a job. Two, you're going to be inspired to do it, and you're not going to get burnt out, because I'm over here, I'm losing my voice talking about this stuff, but I'm not getting paid. I don't care. I want to talk about it. So anyone who's trying to pretend to be interested in this stuff are 10 steps behind me, and they're going to get burnt out, and they're going to go, I need a break from YouTube. I need a break. I'm out here every day wanting to wake up and talk about this stuff. Right. Yeah. So find a way of monetizing that. Don't have this idea that you can't charge for your services, because life's about fair exchange. And if you're providing service to others, they should pay you in remuneration, and you both got a great deal. No one wants to be owed, and no one wants to owe, right? So let's just say I've gone down the pub with you and you've bought the drinks for the last 10 times. Probably I won't show up the next one, because I'll be like, this is so awkward. It's too awkward. And then it's awkward. And then you've lost the friend, right? So, and the same goes for you. You'll probably think, I don't want to invite him again because he's fucking tight. Right? So no one wants to, fair exchange rules the game, man. And you need to embrace that. You need to be both narcissistic and altruistic at the same time. You need to be giving and receiving, And as long as you're doing what you enjoy, you shouldn't have a problem asking for the money.
Be selfish to be selfless.
Yeah.
And fair exchange.
Yeah, you can serve way more people by doing that because you're inspired to do it than you can trying to exchange time for money or trying to, work with anyone who just aren't the right fit and just to get the money in. If you're working for money, you're a slave to money.
If you're working, I love that. Jason, when is the book out?
The book is out on the 24th of July.
24th of July. So
Yeah.
I really like it. I think it was so powerful. I've already sent it on to a few people. And how can we get it?
You can get it on Amazon. So we're going to go through an Amazon launch and we're going to discount it down on the launch day. So anyone listening to this, if this is before it's out.
It'll be before, definitely.
Please, 24th of July, grab that book, take it on holiday with you and let me know what you think.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on, and we appreciate everything you've said.
Thanks, mate. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to that episode. I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I enjoyed speaking to that guest. If you scroll down now, you will find a link to our Healthy Hustle newsletter. There's more than 10,000 people receiving the newsletter every week, and it helps break down how to become a top podcast guest. It will also break down exactly what this guest that you've just listened to did to create such a great episode that you've just listened to. I hope it's helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.